So we started in the classroom with force and motion, and we looked at friction and how items and objects move and what makes them move. We then went to Jen, who is our learning commons teacher, and said, how can we incorporate this into technology? And Jen brought up a design journal from you, and we started with this. We asked the kids, what kind of parameters should your car have? We need to make a car that rolls gravity powered. So what parameters, what criteria do we all need to adhere to? And they came up with simply, it needs to have a body, it needs to have 4 wheels, the wheels needed to be the same size, and that it had to have the axle. And from there we let them run. We said, design it. So we had kids draw up wheels, we had them draw up bodies, so that they had some creative outlook before we went to the tech. And then Jen took over the tech piece in technology time.
So we looked at Tinkercad. We looked at how to drag over the shapes, and then how to make the box or the holes within it using Control D and Control G, so duplicate and then group them, and then that's basically all I gave them, and then they just went with it.
And we had kids that came up with super complex designs. So I mean, Jonathan here, he had a whole bunch of different shapes that he was able to compile, and he understood the aerodynamics of his angles and his cutting through with the points. But then we had some kids that came up with really blocky, traditional cars. And for them, they needed to figure out how to gap it and link it together. And that was really difficult for some of them. So they needed to review their design, that whole inquiry piece around the design process, prototype, and redesign. And some of them did really well. Some of them did need help along the way. And that's just part of exploring a brand new project, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting to see the different designs too, because some of the kids realize that you're going to get more aerodynamics through open spaces in your vehicle, right? I think.
and then you had some kids that were super worried about the inside, and we've got chairs in there.
Yes.
Because they need to have somewhere to sit.
Yeah.
So priorities, things that parents drove, we've got Jeeps.
Or Mercedes.
Yeah, totally. So for them, they related to what they could link it to and what they could connect to. Again, you've got your seats in there. Some of them figured out that a wider wheel was going to cover more surface and give it more balance. Some of them learned that their wheels need to be anchored and the axles need to move so that we don't get the wobbly wheel. So all that learning, you can't see unless you do it. So they had a test day, then we reevaluated. We talked about what worked, what didn't work. Lots of them had really little wheels, so we did a stock wheel, we designed a wheel, and they kind of went from there. And that reevaluation worked a lot better today when we tested.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did not have enough time to reprint the cars, because a lot of the cars, some of our flatter ones, like let's just pretend this truck had really small wheels. When it came off the ramp, it would just hit.
Well, just
down,
like this one. This
down.
one had very little clearance, so it was unable to clear our 4 different surface areas that we tested for friction.
So after redesign, a lot of them changed their wheels and they got a lot further. So it increased their confidence, and they,
And they were able to talk using the terminology, which is so key, because we can feed them books and we can feed them theory all day long, but for them to apply it to something that is so practical. And then we looked at it in a real car. Okay, well, some of my kids said, what, the car is wet and the wheels are wet, does it slide more? Does it really go down a hill? So we talked about putting things in neutral and into park. And it just makes them more aware of their everyday, I think, environment as well.
Yeah.
Because they were worried if it was in neutral, if it would really roll down the hill. And I said, yes, it would. So those kind of things.
Brakes.
Yeah, exactly. And this allowed them to see that by building. So I think that was really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the constraints were like we didn't have enough time or filament really to reprint the cars. So when it came to the redesign phase, they were more focused on their wheel axle, which ultimately some of them were